Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our classroom.cloud demo this morning. My name's Matt. I head up our pre-sales team in the UK and for our international arm. And today we're going to do a half-an-hour presentation on our classroom.cloud product. Let's get started. Classroom.cloud is our cloud-based classroom management, safeguarding and IT asset management software. Now, today I'm going to be showing the software using Windows devices, but we can also support all major platforms. So that includes Chromebooks, Mac OS, so your desktop Macs, iOS devices such as your iPads, and Android. So if I just end this screen here and we jump into the Classroom.cloud web portal. Now, Classroom.cloud is a really easy product to use. So the staff at your school who are going to be using this don't need to install any software onto their machines. They just need a computer with a modern web browser, and they will access the software through a web portal. On your student devices, we need to install an agent that allows it to connect to our servers and the web portal. And that depends on the device on how that's done. So with Windows devices, we can deploy an MSI via something like group policy, SCCM, or if you've gone fully cloud, we can utilize Microsoft Intune to deploy that. For your Chromebooks, we use an extension which can be pushed out through the Google Management Console. And for the other platforms, we support MDM deployment. So if you're managing your desktop Macs, your iPads, or your Androids through an MDM, we can deploy our software through that method. Now, obviously, the big advantage with Classroom.cloud is that because it's internet-based, it breaks down the barriers from only being able to see devices that are in the classroom in front of you. You're able to connect to a student device from if it's located anywhere. So as long as that student's got an internet connection, you can connect to their device if they are learning from home. Or on the flip side, if you're a teacher and you need to be delivering your lesson from outside the school, you can use the product to do that. So if we go to sign into the web portal here, you'll see I've got a few options. So I can sign in with what we refer to as a local Classroom.cloud account. So that's where you provide an email and password. We store those securely onto our servers. Alternatively, if you're using either Microsoft 365 or Google's suite of educational applications, you can use your existing Microsoft or Google account to sign into our product. And we recommend you use that if you are using one of those two platforms. And the reason for that is basically threefold. So first of all, your staff can be logging in with an identity they're already familiar with. So we know what happens if we're asking people to use an additional username and password. They're either going to forget what it is, or they're going to be tempted to start reusing passwords, which makes things a little bit less secure. Secondly, both Microsoft and Google have various security around their logins, so things like multi-factor authentication. So if you're using a Microsoft or Google account and you've got that switched on, we're obviously going to be respecting that when you sign into our web portal. It just makes things that little bit more secure. And then finally, we can integrate with both Microsoft School Data Sync and Google Classroom. And that means if you've got your classes set up on either of those platforms, it's possible for us to pull that data directly into the Classroom.cloud product. And when a teacher signs in, they can see their classes there straight away. Any changes made in School Data Sync or Google Classroom are automatically pulled through into Classroom.cloud in near real time. So you don't have to worry about performing any kind of synchronizations there. So I'm going to sign in with a Microsoft account this morning. So I'm just going to pick that there. And I can see, we can see that I'm signed into the web portal here. Now, I'm signed in using what we refer to as an organizational admin account. And that basically gives me access to everything. We've got various other roles that you can allocate out to your staff. And depending on the roles that you give them will depend what they see on this left-hand menu here. So, for example, a teacher would only have access to the My Classes section because they just need to use the classroom management side of the software. So don't think that the software is overly complicated. It's only because I'm logging in as an admin. You'll also see on the main portion of the page, we've got various user guides, and we've documented this product a little bit differently than we've documented our other products, in that we've broken down the guides depending on the role that you have within the school. So, for example, if you're a teacher, we've got our Teacher Getting Started guide here. And again, that just covers the classroom management side, because your teachers don't need to know how the software is installed and configured. They just need to know how to use the part that's relevant for them. The other thing I want to talk about is organization and sites. So when you sign up to the product, we create an organization, and under that organization, we will create a site. And a site is essentially a school. So if you're a single school, you don't need to do anything. You can sort of just start using the software straight away. However, if you're part of a multi-academy trust, or you manage multiple schools and you want to manage them all through a single web portal, you can actually add in additional sites or schools here, and that allows you to separate out your devices, and it allows you to allocate user permissions to certain sites. So, for example, if I was a teacher and I only taught at Grange Hill here, I can just be given access to Grange Hill, and I wouldn't be able to see any of the other schools there. So it gives you the convenience of being able to manage multiple schools through a single web portal, but at the same time, you're not going to be granting all your users access to schools that maybe they don't need to see. So if we jump down into the My Classes here, and I'll jump into my my Grange Hill, you can see I've got some class tiles here, and this is how we launch our classes. And there's several ways that these classes can be set up. So this top row here, you can see has got a Microsoft icon on, and these classes are being pulled through directly from my school data sync environment. That's happening automatically. Now, if I connect to a student using, or start a class using this mode, what it's going to do is it's going to go out and it's going to look for the specific users assigned to that class. So it's basically going to scan any devices you've got connected to your classroom.cloud portal. And it's going to look for the logged on user. And if that logged on user is in that class, it's going to connect to them. So this is a great way of connecting to students if you've got one-to-one devices, because obviously if you're in a classroom, the devices in front of you are going to be changing depending on which students are in that class at that particular time. Now, if you've got a more traditional IT setup at your school, where you've maybe got fixed computer rooms or fixed computer labs, and the students come into those rooms for their computer lessons, we can group devices together. So if you've got a computer room called Computer Room 1, you can put all the devices in that room into a group, and then the teacher can connect to that specific group of devices. And in that mode, we don't care who's logged on. We just care if the device is in that group or not. And then finally, we've got our connection mode that we call class code. And this is kind of our catch-all way of connecting to students. So if you've got maybe a lunchtime club or after-school club, and it's kind of a random set of students and they change each week, the teacher can create a class. We assign the class a code. They then communicate that code to the students key that into their device, and then that will connect their devices to the teacher there. So it's kind of great in the scenario where maybe the activity isn't timetabled and you're not using all the devices in a particular room. So if I just click on my all devices group here, just give that a second to load up. And you can see straight away here, I've got the thumbnails of my devices, just to make those a little bit bigger for you there. So the teacher can see exactly what is going on in the class. They can make sure that their students are on task, or they can spot if anybody's perhaps struggling and they need some help. If I want a better view of my device, I can simply double click it and we pop this window out there. So I've got a better view of the desktop. And for Windows and Mac OS devices, we also have the functionality to remote control the device. So if I click on the little arrow here, I can then take control of that device if I need to give the student some assistance there. Now, on other platforms, such as Chromebooks, we haven't got remote control support. However, you still can pop this window out. So if you need to see what students do in a little bit more detail, you can make use of this larger view here. We've also got the ability to screenshot the desktop. So if you maybe want to capture evidence of some good work, or perhaps there's an error message on the device that the teacher wants to capture and send to the IT support team, they can quickly and easily do that using that screenshot button there. Now, just moving across the top here, we've got some options. So one of the most popular is the lock screen. So what this will do is it will lock the student's device, it will replace the desktop with this image, and it will also disable the keyboard and mouse. So essentially that device becomes unusable. So it's really good maybe at the start of a lesson when the teacher wants to make sure they've got the attention of the class so they can explain what they want the students to be doing. And then when they're ready for the students to start their work, they can simply unlock the devices there. That will remove the lock screen and give the students control back of the device. Now, because I didn't select any particular student, that action was performed on anybody, or sorry, on everybody. But if I want to perform an action on a particular student, I can select them, select the action, and then that is just going to lock this particular device here. And this is true for all the features I'm going to show you. So you can run a feature against everybody in your class by having no one selected, or if you select specific students, it will just perform that action on the device or devices you've selected. So let's just unlock John there. So some other features we've got rewards. So this allows you to give rewards to your students. So if I give some rewards there, you can see that they're being shown on the top of the thumbnail here. I can also remove rewards. So maybe it's a question and answer exercise. I want to give a reward if the student has answered a question correctly, or remove one if they haven't. I've got the ability to send a message to my students. That could maybe be useful in an exam scenario if you need to communicate something, but you don't want to distract the other students in the class. Student desktop. So this allows you to either minimize all the open applications using show desktop, or clear desktop will shut down all the open applications. So particularly useful if you've maybe got devices that are using a shared login. So maybe younger students, they don't have their own login. You sign in the devices with a default login in the morning, and you maybe just want to clear those machines down in between classes so nothing's running when your next set of students come in. Our quick launch feature allows you to launch applications and websites. So again, this is something that can be particularly useful where you've got younger students, if they're maybe struggling to load a particular application, or if you need them to go to a website and it's a particularly tricky URL to type in. So I can simply pre-populate this list using the plus button on either side here. And then I can simply select what I want to run. So we're going to pick the NetSupport website and the Notepad application. If I click on launch, and if we just give that a moment there, you'll start to see the website and that application load up there on my student device. The share screen feature allows me to share my screen with the students in the class. So this is great if you're using the tool for remote learning, but also if you're using it for classroom-based teaching. Perhaps you're in a classroom that doesn't have projection facilities, or maybe you've got a student with a visual impairment and they find it a bit easier to see something close up on their device rather than looking at a screen at the front of the class. So we've got the option to share in a full screen or in a window. I can also broadcast my microphone. So again, if you're using the tool for remote learning and the teacher actually isn't in front of the students, you might want to use that. Obviously, if your teacher's in the class, they're probably just going to talk to the students in front of them. And then when I do the share, I've got the option of choosing what I'm going to be sharing there. So I can choose a particular tab in the browser. I can share a particular window, or if I've got multiple screens connected to my device, I can pick the particular screen I want to share there. We've got the random select feature. So what this will do is randomly select one or more students in the class. So you can select the amount of students you want to pick, give that a second, and then the student will get a notification on their screen to tell them that they've been selected. So great if you want to pick a student maybe to answer a question, or perhaps maybe collect the books in at the end of the lesson, or sort of tidy up the chairs there. Now, another option we've got, and this displays slightly differently depending on the platform, is the student toolbar. So this is something you can toggle on and off in real time during the lesson. So you can see I've toggled that on. And if we jump into one of my devices here, this puts this toolbar across the top of the screen, and this communicates certain information to the student. So I've got the name of the teacher. I've got indication of the rewards that I've been given. And we've also got some icons across the top here. So this one here allows the teacher to set objectives and outcomes for the lesson, which the students can view by clicking this button. And then we've got the ability to restrict mobile storage devices, so things like USB pen drives, restrict applications, and restrict websites, which I'm going to show you in a minute. If those restrictions are in place, they can be communicated to the students using these icons. And then we have an option that allows the student to request a chat with the teacher, or they can request help. And the request help one is quite nice. So if I click on the little hand there, I can pick what it is I need help with, and then I can send a message to the teacher. So if we just type something in there and click on OK, you'll see this toolbar changes color. And this is so that if the teacher is perhaps not sitting at their machine, they're maybe walking around the class, this gives the teacher an indication that this student requires some assistance. And then they can come back to their web console, and we can see the student that's got the problem, the message, and then if they select the student, they can open that watch window, or they can start a chat with the student there. So just going down the left-hand side here, we've got our application monitoring. So this allows you to see what applications a student is running on their device. So this is a great tool. If your students are all supposed to perhaps maybe be typing something up in Word, you can see from this view here, I can see exactly what the app is in focus, so I can spot straight away if I've got any students off task. I can also use this to control applications. So if I need to block certain applications, I can apply a restricted list, and this will block any applications that are in this list. Alternatively, I can apply an approved list, and this will just allow the students to run the applications in this list. So this can be very useful for testing if you only want the students to run the testing application, or if maybe it's an online test and it needs to be done in a specific browser, you can block out any non-compatible browsers there. We've also got something similar for web monitoring. So again, if a student is on the internet, I can see the website that they're currently viewing. And then again, I can control the internet using either an approved or restricted list. So in restricted mode, it will block access to any of these websites. But in approved mode, it will only allow access to the websites on this list. So again, really good, perhaps in a testing scenario, or if you need the students to be a bit more focused, you maybe want to put the half a dozen websites you're going to use during your lesson in there. And we know that the students aren't going to start going off, getting off task, looking at something else. The other option we have is the block all. So depending on the platform, this might be something that's useful for you, or it might not be. Obviously on a Chromebook, if you turn the internet off, they sort of become a very expensive doorstop. But for Windows and your sort of desktop Macs, it could be that you don't want the students using the internet in that particular lesson, in which case you can use the block all, and that will disable all the internet access through the browser there. Also got our survey tool. So this allows allows you to set questions for your students, and they can pick the answer from a set of responses that you specify. So if we pick one that I've used previously and send that to our students, and then if we jump into our student device, and we'll just pick some answers here. So there we go. So we've answered that on a few of our students. So we've got a breakdown of how the class has answered down the bottom here. I've also got a coloured dot at the bottom of each thumbnail to indicate that or how each student has responded. And then if I want to, I can also show the results anonymously to my students. We've just jumped back in here to this student. I can communicate how the class has answered. So this can be great if you're maybe using this in a debate scenario. So perhaps you have a question you throw out at the start of the lesson, get everyone's opinion on it. You maybe argue both sides of the point, and then perhaps you end the lesson by asking the same question again and see if anyone's opinion has been changed based on what has been argued there. So lots of interesting ways that feature can be used in a classroom setting. We've also got our chat feature. So worth pointing out that the chat feature is only between the teacher and the student. It's not possible for students to have a chat with each other. And the chat is one-to-one, but it is possible to have multiple chats going on at the same time. So I could have a chat with April here. Can't type. There we go. But I could also be having a chat going on with John as well at the same time, and I can simply toggle between the students by selecting them there in the web console. And then finally, we've got our device controls. So this allows you to control certain aspects of the device. So I can disable access to USB storage. So if you don't want students using pen drives in the lesson, you can do that. If the device has a webcam, we can disable the webcam. And it's also possible for us to mute and unmute the audio. Now, any restrictions that have been applied to the device, and this isn't just the device control, this includes internet and application restrictions, they are only enforced whilst the lesson is in progress. As soon as the teacher closes the browser or clicks End Class, all the devices will go back to their default configuration. So there should be no risk of a teacher maybe blocking the internet and then a student going to another lesson and not being able to get on the internet on their device because a teacher has forgotten to remove those controls there. So just going to end the class, and then we're going to jump into the safeguarding functionality of the software. So I'm going to start off by just going through a few of the settings here. So a big part of our safeguarding is phrase monitoring. So we have a built-in phrase list, and it includes phrases under all these categories. So we've got things like bullying, drugs terms. We've also got radicalization. So if you're in the UK, this can be helping you with meeting your prevent obligations. And what basically happens is there's a priority set against each one of the phrases in our library, and based on that priority, we'll dictate what we do where we see that word. So at the lowest level, we simply record that we've seen that word. At the medium level, we record we've seen that word, and you can optionally have an email sent to selected staff within the school. At a high level, you can have the email sent, and we also capture a screenshot of what was on the screen at the time the word was triggered, so you've got some context. And then at the highest level, on Windows devices, desktop Macs and Chromebooks, we can also record 30 seconds of video. So that will be 15 seconds before the phrase was detected and 15 seconds after. So you've got a really good idea of what was going on when that particular phrase was triggered there. Now, if there are phrases you want to detect for that aren't in our phrase library, we've got our user-defined phrases here. So you can add in your own phrases there. So it could be maybe you've got a local sort of term for drugs, or perhaps somebody's being bullied, a certain nickname's being used you want to detect. You can come in here and add those in there, and we will detect for those phrases exactly the same way as we'll detect for the built-in ones. Now, when it comes to detecting, as well as English phrases, we can also detect for phrases in all of these languages here. So, schools obviously very multicultural. You could have students that speak multiple languages. So we don't want things flying under our safeguarding radar because a student is maybe typing in a language other than English. So you can simply come in here, turn on whatever languages are spoken in your school. And these language packs have been developed with native speakers. So we haven't simply gone out, popped our English phrases into Google Translate and gone, hey, we can detect in German now. We've worked with native speakers of these languages. So, there's a lot of words, sort of slang terms and things like that, where there's maybe not a direct English translation that we can be capturing there. Now, when it comes to capturing, we've got sort of 4 methods, and sort of 3 of these are fairly obvious. So we can detect if the phrase has been typed into the device. We can detect if it's been seen in the title of a web page, or if it's been copied to the clipboard. Now, you'll also notice we've got this Teams option here, and this is quite cool. So obviously, in order to perform these safeguarding functions, we need our software to be on the student's device in order to do the monitoring. However, with Teams, we can actually monitor on our device without our software on. And the way we do that is we actually monitor your Teams tenancy. So we scan the messages as they're going through Microsoft servers. So this is an optional feature. So we're not scanning anything by default. You have to come in and turn this on. But if you do have this enabled, it basically allows you to be monitoring Teams and checking it's not being used for any kind of online bullying or any inappropriate behavior there. You can choose what you monitor within Teams. So you can choose what particular teams or channels you're monitoring. So you don't have to monitor everything. It might be you only want to monitor the teams that your students are a part of, and maybe not staff exclusive teams there. So it's entirely up to you. So if we jump into the captured data, so you can see I've got some data captured here. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom for one of my example phrases. Let's me find the fact. Let's there we go. I've got some I generated yesterday. So if we jump in here, I've added the word Xbox to my phrase list just for an example there. So I've got the name of the user, I've got the device they're on, and I've got the description of the word there. And because I've set this to be an urgent level phrase, I've also captured a screenshot and video. Now, you'll notice that the screenshot is obfuscated, and this is an optional setting within the software, but due to the nature of what we could be scanning for, it could be that we capture something that's maybe particularly violent, pornographic. We don't want a user coming in here and seeing something that they're going to be presented with that's going to upset or distress them. So you can come in here, you can have a review and say, yeah, I'm happy to look at that. And then when you click on it, we will show you that in an unblurred format. And then obviously we've got the video. So if I just double click on that, so good example here of the sort of 15 seconds before, 15 seconds after. So you'll see me load the browser up here, type in the word Xbox, scroll down, and then go to the Xbox website. So if this was something more serious, you can see, has a student ended up on a web page because they've naively clicked a link, or have they gone and consciously sort of searched for something there? So let's just close that down. So when you come to review these here, status will come in as new. You can then mark this as in progress, completed, or if it's something that's been triggered in error, you can mark it as a false alarm. You can also add in notes to explain what your decision on changing the status there. And then in the top right-hand corner, you'll see we've got this risk analysis. And the risk analysis basically gives a score out of 100 to every single phrase that we capture. And it is basically for the staff reviewing these phrases to sort of point them in the direction of the kind of the more serious phrase matches there. So it's not kind of needle in a haystack. They can concentrate on what's most likely to be a safeguarding risk, as opposed to stuff that's maybe perhaps more sort of low level bad behavior, or something that's maybe been triggered in error. And the way we calculate this, we look at a number of factors. So is the device supervised? The way we define a supervised device is it connected to the classroom management side of the software when it was triggered? So is a teacher connected to it? If a teacher is connected, it's supervised. Otherwise, it's classed as unsupervised. The source, so you can flag up applications and websites as being higher risk. So if you've done that and the students triggered this on a high risk application or a higher risk website, it feeds into the score. Keyword severity. Part of this is obvious. An urgent phrase will carry more weighting than a low or a medium one, but we also look at the category. So anything in the suicide or self-harm category will carry a higher score than something than perhaps in cybersecurity. And then finally, we look at historical incidents. So if a student is continually triggering phrases over a short period of time, this is going to bump this score right up. So if they've got 20 drugs triggers over 24 hours, that's something you're going to want to be looking at and understanding why that's happening. Now, we've obviously got filters on here, as you saw me use there, filtering down to a specific date. We can also filter by category. If you're managing multiple schools, you can filter down by site there, by status. We've also got a smart search. So if I start typing in here, it's going to filter down. So this is filtering down to my user, Peter Franks, there. So it's easy to get at the data that you want. And just in this view, the other thing I'll show you is what a capture from Teams looks like when our software isn't running on the local device. So we've got the name of the user because we know that because they have to be signed into Teams. We've got the particular team that was the phrase was captured in. And we then have the phrase that was captured. In fact, I'm just going to pick this one because this is probably a better example of the what we capture with the types. So the phrase that's been triggered is going to get you, but we capture the whole sentence there. So in this case, I hate you and I'm going to get you after school. That's clearly Boolean. But if we only captured this, it could be a student saying, I'm going to get you a chocolate bar from the shop at lunchtime, in which case that's completely innocent and there's nothing for us to worry about. So by capturing that whole phrase there, it allows you to see the full context and identify if that is something you need to be concerned about. So a couple of other ways to view your phrase matches. So we've got our phrase cloud here, which is a really nice way of sort of seeing what's trending with your students. You can click on one of the phrases and it will give you a list of all the individual matches there. And then we also have our graph view, so we can toggle through different views here. The filters and the smart search also work on here. So if we what should we search for? So if I do a search for, let's do my search for my user Peter there. So you can see as I'm going through, it's filtering down to my user Peter Franks there, whereas if I delete that out, that's bringing through the data for everybody. So again, quick and easy way for you to identify the information you want to get at. A couple of other bits of the safeguarding. So I'm just going to bring up a virtual machine to demonstrate these. So we've got our safeguarding resources. So this is something you can optionally turn on. When it is turned on, this displays a list of organisations offering support for issues that could be impacting your students. So if they've got a problem, they don't want to talk to a member of staff or their friends or family, they can load up this list. We've got hyperlinks to the website, phone numbers for the organisation if they offer phone support. So that's a way of being able to offer some additional support for your students. This list is editable. So if you've got a local organisation you work with, you can pop their details on this list, just another way of advertising their services to your students. And then we've also got our report a concern. So this allows students to report any problems they might have to selected members of staff. So you can set this up. You designate which members of staff are going to deal with these concerns. Students can enter their name. They don't have to. If we do capture the logged on users, so if someone doesn't enter their name, then we can still hopefully identify who they are. They type in what's concerning them. So if we just put something in here, so I'm being bullied, then student can then pick if they've got multiple members of staff to report this to, click on submit. They get a message to say that's successfully been submitted. And then the staff member will get an email, and then they can come into the concern section and they can come in and they can review this here. So we can see it's coming as anonymous because I didn't enter the name, but we have captured the user that's logged on to that device. Final thing I'm going to point out with the concerns is it's possible to link in with point out with the safeguarding. It's possible to link in with both CPOMs and my concern. So when you enable that integration, what we do on both the phrase match review window, on this concerns window, we put a button and it allows you to send the data that we have captured to those respective platforms. So if you want to use those platforms to kind of manage and track the issues rather than using our web portal, you can there with the integration. And then the last bit of the demo today is going to be quickly going through our sort of tech tools. So we've got our inventory here. So pretty straightforward. This will bring through details of hardware and software. So you can see I've got my devices here. I've got hardware information. I can also see the software that's been detected on my network. So if we'll pick on Google Chrome here. So this is showing me where Google Chrome has been installed. The name of the device there. I've also got the version, so I can see if anything's using an outdated version. And I can also jump in and I can get a breakdown from for an individual machine. So I can get a more detailed hardware breakdown here, but I can also interrogate the software that's on that individual device. Other bits I can perform from here. So I've got the ability to send a message to that device, or I can select multiple devices and mass send a message there. I've also got the ability to remote control a device here as well. There we go. So I can jump in and I've got that same remote control window as I had in the teacher console there to remote control. And then the last bit I'm going to talk about today is our activity view. So I can monitor application usage and internet usage on the devices, as well as recording a login history there. So if you need to do any kind of investigation or you want to sort of kind of see what a particular student has been running or visiting on the web, you can do that through our activity section here. So that concludes our demonstration for today. Thank you very much for watching today. If you have liked what you've seen, you can go to our classroom.cloud website and you can sign up for a free trial here. Or if you want to contact us, if you want a more in-depth demo or to discuss sort of how the product can work in your environment, we've got contact details again on the website. But thank you very much for your time today, and possibly see you again in the future.